Mini conference viewers, welcome and thanks for tuning in. As Wynne said, I'm Charlie Steer and I'm fortunate enough to be in a job that I like, according to my long-suffering partner Rebecca, far too much, as the arable manager at Grosvenor Farms, a 2,340 mixed area and arable farm in Cheshire. The title of my study is A Circular Farm. This returns to a system that is cycling energy and materials with the ethos that views waste simply as matter in the wrong place. The concepts of the circular farm are as old as farming itself, not only in terms of nutrient cycling, but all materials. We all know a good few farmers that refuse to throw anything away with the hope that it might come in useful one day. My interest in the circular economy has been ingrained in me from the start, even if I didn't know it at the time. My grandfather was one of the resourceful generation who lived through a world war, and it was compulsory that baler twine was cut at the knots so it could be reused. All through school, my nickname, unfortunately, was Stig, as in off the dump, as I was rumbled pulling a lawnmower out of a skip. Never lived that one down. These influences, in conjunction with growing up on an organic farm, undoubtedly shaped my thinking. These came to the surface when, shortly after joining Grosvenor Farms as assistant arable manager in 2011, I was immersed in the day-to-day running of our dairy and arable operation. In 2014, after a couple of years of construction, a new dairy unit was opened. Incorporated in the design were features that increase animal welfare, health, comfort, whilst reducing water and energy use, as well as saving a considerable amount of time. The biggest revolution from my point of view was the way in which manures were now able to be managed. By separating and recycling the sand bedding from the slurry, then separating this into solids and liquid, we could apply products as and when there was a crop demand, cutting not only the fertilizer spend, but also the amount of nutrient loss. This got my imagination going, and before I had too much time to procrastinate, I was fortunate enough to be sat in front of the Nuffield interview panel, then shortly after on travels to the USA, Canada, Denmark, Ireland, numerous visits here in the UK. Unfortunately, trips to the Netherlands and Eastern Europe were replaced with virtual meetings during the outbreak of COVID-19. As I'm not an economist, I won't spend too long pretending to be one, but I felt it was too important not to spend a short introduction on some underlying principles. The current global economic model is based on a growth of one key metric, gross domestic product, or GDP. GDP growth has served the global population well. Billions have been raised out of poverty, child mortality rates are down, life expectancy is up, and fewer people are going to sleep hungry. But we must ask ourselves, how sustainable is this policy of constant growth? After all, nothing natural grows forever. Without exception, this drive for continual growth is at the expense of the planet. On a daily basis, we're taking, making, using and losing uncountable amounts of materials and energy, pushing natural systems on the planet to the brink. To quote Goldman Environmental Prize winners, we're living on the planet as if we had another one to go. Now, this slide might not be easy to see on your screens, but I hope you can pick up the gist. All the data trends for environmental metrics are heading in the wrong direction, be it greenhouse gas emissions, surface temperature, ocean acidification, microplastics, air quality, biodiversity, habitat loss, the list goes on. While global population and GDP continues to accelerate, so do the problems, taking us well past the limits of some natural systems. The basic principles of the circular economy looks at the fundamentals that underpins the flow of materials and energy from cradle to grave. We take, make, use and lose. We can argue agriculture is slightly different and say it integrates natural systems, the nitrogen, carbon and water cycles. However, since Justice von Liebig burnt plant matter, analysed the samples and declared the ash comprised of 3 minerals, and we could make these in some abandoned armament factories. This then allowed the neglect of some of the principles that have gone before, using animal manures, rotational diversity and integration of livestock. There have been a lot of mouths fed and money made on the back of von Liebig's principles, but at the same time, inputs globally have increased while yields have plateaued. The examples I encountered on my travels all demonstrated that farmers and businesses around the world are embracing the complexity of natural systems, combining that with technology to produce some results that are nothing short of brilliant. They're all reliant on one key principle, absolute minimization of waste. This is achieved by capturing value at each stage of the chain, be it using 6 acres of worms to capture nutrients from slurries, or farmers maintaining green cover on cropland to lock up nutrients, even employing lean management techniques to reduce wasted time. This is happening on a regional and national scale as well as on farm. In October 2016, the Dutch government launched a circular economy in the Netherlands by 2050 programme with specific objectives, including a 50% reduction in the use of primary raw materials as soon as 2030, as well as a commitment to be 100% circular by 2050. Back home in the UK, the work of the Ellen MacArthur Foundation is bringing together the elements of the circular economy. In conversation with Nick Jeffries, he outlined the synthesis between cities and food. Now the food system, in particular food waste, is one of the biggest challenges of our time. The Foundation uses the label of regenerative agriculture as a key role in a circular economy, in the sense that it links soil and human health, builds resilience both biologically and financially, thus protecting the incomes and livelihoods of farmers. The food vision of the Ellen MacArthur Foundation is shaped by the underlying three principles: to design out waste and pollution, keep products and materials in use, and regenerate natural systems. It's at this point I've realised that I've tried to be an economist for a bit too long, and how can I fit the remaining summary of my travels into a legible, organised manner? But this also enlightened another learning: the need for systems thinking when trying to design a circular system. It's human nature to try and rationalise and sympathise things, and sometimes this can be too much so. As many of you know, running a farm or business for that matter requires a broad range of skills and the ability to connect these skills to see how they affect the business as a whole. On a daily basis, we can be using skills of soil scientist, accountant, any of that HR advisor or PR manager. On that of this, I looked into the tools of a system thinker. I think the key skills for the circular farmer, and evident in all the case studies I'll go on to present. So we need to be more connected. LiftTech in Canada linked the potash and phosphorus use and a low temperature sewage sludge treatment to provide soil mapping and low emission applications service to farmers. This offered a solution to expensive sewage treatment works, so it was a win-win. They also had a tanking setup to get any machinery found quite excited, and a slogan that really summed up the benefits of their circular products: nothing wasted, everything to gain. We need to change thinking from lines to circles. The University of Wageningen demonstrated several examples of this with a Dutch commitment to fully circular economy. Their main university provides world-leading examples with its lighthouse farms. These lighthouse farms not only demonstrate the theory, but put into practice the visions developed and tested at the university, bridging the think-do gap. The research conducted and the data from the lighthouse farms quickly made me realise the importance of data collection on the farm, and how simple measures such as maintaining green cover make a huge difference in ensuring nutrients and carbon stay within the farm gate. Bringing the whole element of the farm together, Fair Oaks and Terra New Fertilizer is based in Indiana. Slurry from cattle numbers totaling a huge 30,000 from one of Fair Oaks' 11 units have the sand separated and then are fed into anaerobic digestion tanks. From here, a system of flocculation, dissolved air flotation, and a unique separation process removes north of 80% of the phosphorus and 95% of the suspended solids from the liquid. This is then used to flood wash the shed or as an irrigant on cropped land. The circular nature continues with the farm constructing a fertilizer plant in conjunction with Gary Zimmer's company, Midwestern Bioag. The recovered solid material is processed into a bioactive fertilizer, marketed as Terra New, and actively uses the closed loop and bio-based credentials of the product in its marketing. The whole process and the trucks used to move the milk and manure around this vast farm are processed by biogas or electricity produced on site by the AD. Emergent thinking. The land at Doubt provides a great example of systems. By repurposing a LiDAR surveying technique, they were able to map overland flows of nutrients. This information, combined with rainfall modelling, allowed the planting of precisely sized willow riparian areas. These capture overland flows and the nutrient they're carrying, preventing a loss from the farm. The willow provides further habitat and increases biodiversity. Harvested for biomass and burnt in the estate's boilers. Information from DOUF is shaping emerging national policy and providing scientifically verified data on carbon in soils, biodiversity and ammonia emissions, as well as being one of the aforementioned lighthouse farms. Now, I couldn't leave this example, it's a favourite of mine, the relationship between earthworms and agriculture. Biofiltro is a wastewater treatment company who've applied their worm-powered process at Austin Allred's Royal Dairy in Washington. Prior issues meant that pumping slurry into the irrigation system was no longer an option. Trucking slurry to further lying land had also become environmentally and financially unsustainable. The team at Biofiltro have installed a 6-acre worm bed. This uses shallow tank, cycled plastic pallets, a layer of river cobbles, and feet of low quality wood chip as a byproduct of stake clearing fire breaks. Chip is then inoculated with worms, microbes, and specific bacteria. It's fitted with surface irrigation. The microbes, the magic starts when the worms, bacteria, and the wood chip combine to capture 90% of the incoming phosphorus, nitrogen, and suspended solids. Worm casings are then harvested from the system as a valuable vermicompost. The treated water can then be pumped through irrigation pivots, saving financial and environmental costs of trucking and further water abstraction. The reduction in waste goes further as Biofiltro have ambitions to make their system from a concrete Lego block system so they can be readily expanded or reused. So it's time to conclude. Although the presentation is usually the end of a Nuffield journey, it only really feels like the start. The opportunities, worldview and frenzy make are phenomenal. In terms of my topic, there are so many examples from Swindon to Seattle that I've not mentioned or since across and have an insatiable appetite to see. As I think the vision is cycling, but it's not full circle. To draw to for now, I've come to the following conclusions. On a macro scale, in order to progress circular farming models, I envisage a national commitment to the circular economy in line with carbon reduction targets to be fully circular in the UK. Agriculture is a cornerstone in this. Secondly, we require an adaptation in mindset. Systems thinking is essential to the complexity of a circular economy and the farm. I believe farmers are good at this. However, it's human nature to try and oversimplify these things. Thirdly, to adopt scientific and technological advances that complement natural systems, remembering the definition of science is the study of nature and behaviour of natural things and the knowledge we obtain about them. Fourthly, to embrace diversity. Diversity de-risks systems, be it a wider rotation, incorporation of livestock, or supplying vermicompost or fertilizer. Personally, on farm, we're investing methods to reduce losses from the farming system, in particular, nutrients, energy, and time. We're looking to increase energy generation to power the circle to add to our 250 kilowatts of existing solar. We're focusing on soil health, which can be a little cliched, but specifically the complex and relationship of a full suite of mineral and biological functions and how the cycling of nutrients can be balanced. Carbon plays a key role in this. Finally, we don't want to stop learning. I've opened a personal can of worms and have a lot to learn, and I'm hoping these worms can help me on the farm. Finally, I must thank everyone at Nuffield and the NFU Mutual Charitable Trust, but also all the people who've hosted me, of which are too numerous to mention. But Ross, I'll have to give you special thanks to your Canadian hospitality. You know a man whose farm truck looks like the one on the screen is going to show you a good time. I can't give enough thanks to Grosvenor Farms, especially the arable team and Dave Craven for keeping everything together on the farm when I was away, and my apologies for having to empty the rain gauge quite so much. My partner Rebecca has been a stalwart throughout, enjoying some very late nights and endless proofreading. And finally, thanks for your time listening.